up from her book with polite curiosity. I wanted to thank you for your efforts to moderate the Queen's impulses. I know you counsel Mercy, even when she does not listen. I do only what I believe is right. Adrian sat down across from her, and Ravenna was struck by how tired he looked. I worry about her, he admitted. About what she is becoming. Sometimes I wonder if I made the wrong choice he stopped abruptly. In what, Your Highness? In agreeing to marry her. After Princess Serafina's betrayal, I thought Elena would be a safer choice. More stable. But now I am not certain of anything. This was the moment. Ravenna leaned forward slightly, her voice soft and sympathetic. It must have been terrible for you. To discover that the woman you loved was capable of such evil. I loved her so much, Adrian whispered. When they showed me the evidence, I did not want to believe it. But what else could I think? The journal was in her handwriting. The poison was in her chambers. And yet. Sometimes I dream of her. Of the way she looked at me before everything went wrong. And in those dreams, she is innocent. She begs me to believe her, and I wake up wondering if I condemned an innocent woman. Ravenna felt her heart twist, not with sympathy, but with vicious satisfaction. He was doubting. The poison of uncertainty was taking root. Perhaps, she said carefully, the truth is more complicated than it appeared. Perhaps there are mysteries you have not yet solved. What do you mean? Only that the most obvious answer is not always the correct one. But I should not speak of such things. The past is past. She stood to leave, but Adrian caught her hand. The touch sent a jolt through both of them, not love, but something else. Recognition. Lady Ravenna, he said, looking up at her with confusion in his blue eyes. Have we met before? There is something about you that feels familiar? Ravenna smiled mysteriously. Perhaps we knew each other in an. What if I do not want to keep it? Ravenna asked quietly. What if Serafina's humanity is what made her weak? Then you will become like me. Powerful but alone. Forever. The word forever echoed in the silence that followed. Ravenna found herself wondering what it would be like to truly become a creature of shadow, to give up the last remnants of the healer princess she had been. Is it worth it? She asked. The power? Dante's silver eyes met hers through the mirror. Ask me again when your revenge is complete. The answer may surprise you. The first strike. 2 months after Ravenna's arrival, Elena's paranoia reached its peak. Lord Pemberton was arrested on charges of treason based on evidence Ravenna had carefully fabricated. The trial was swift, the verdict predetermined. You see how they turn on you? Ravenna whispered to Elena as they watched Pemberton being led away in chains. Even your father's most trusted advisors plot against you. I should execute them all, Elena muttered. That might be seen as tyrannical. But perhaps, a test of loyalty? Make them publicly swear allegiance to you in front of the entire court. Anyone who hesitates will reveal themselves. Elena seized on the idea eagerly. The loyalty ceremony was held the next week, and it was a disaster, exactly as Ravenna had planned. Several nobles hesitated or spoke their oaths with obvious reluctance. Elena's fury was visible, and her response was harsh. Titles were stripped, lands were confiscated, and the nobles who had once supported her began to murmur in discontent. Meanwhile, Ravenna cultivated a different reputation. She was seen comforting the families of the disgraced nobles. She was heard arguing with Elena in private, pleading for mercy. She positioned herself as the reasonable voice trying to restrain an increasingly unstable queen. Adrian noticed. Lady Ravenna, he approached her one evening in the palace library. May I speak with you? Of course, Your Highness. She looked things together. That night, Ravenna reported to Dante through the shadow mirror he had given her, a tool that allowed them to communicate across any distance. She is paranoid and power-hungry, Ravenna said. Exactly as we suspected. Give her another month, and she will have alienated half the kingdom. And the prince? Dante asked. Ravenna hesitated. He watches me. I catch him staring when he thinks I am not looking. Does it bother you? No, she said, surprising herself with the truth. I feel nothing when I look at him now. The love I had for Adrian died with Serafina. All that remains is the desire to make him regret his choice. Dante's expression was approving. Good. You are learning. But remember, revenge is a game of patience. Do not rush. Savor every move. The forbidden connection. As the weeks passed, Ravenna found herself spending more time with Dante. Their nightly meetings through the shadow mirror grew longer. They discussed strategy, yes, but they also talked about other things, books they had read, philosophies of power, the loneliness of their respective positions. Why did you save me? Ravenna asked one night. The real reason. Dante was silent for so long she thought he would not answer. Then, because I saw myself in you. 20 years ago, I was betrayed by someone I trusted. Someone I loved. She took everything from me, my kingdom, my family, my future. In my rage, I turned to shadow magic. It consumed me, transformed me into what I am now. Do you regret it? Sometimes. Shadow magic is powerful, but it is also isolating. I cannot walk in sunlight without pain. I cannot form real connections with others because the shadows always stand between me and them. He paused. When I saw you in those flames, condemned for a crime you did not commit, I thought perhaps I could save you from my fate. Perhaps you could have your revenge and still keep your humanity. She was smiling. The game had begun. Planting seeds. Over the next few weeks, Ravenna established herself at court. She was charming to everyone, helpful without being obsequious, intelligent without being threatening. The nobles found her delightful. The servants found her kind, she tipped generously and never raised her voice. But it was with Elena that she focused most of her attention. The Lord Pemberton is questioning your tariff policies, Ravenna mentioned one afternoon as they walked in the gardens, the same gardens where Serafina had once healed wounded animals. He dares? Elena's face flushed with anger. Not openly. But I heard him speaking with Lord Ashworth. They think you are too harsh on the merchants. They compare you unfavorably to, well, to your father. My father is dead because my sister murdered him. I know, Your Majesty. And I believe you acted justly in punishing her. But others may not see it so clearly. Some whisper that the evidence was convenient. Elena stopped walking, her eyes flashing. Are you questioning my integrity? Never, Ravenna said smoothly. I am merely repeating what others say. Knowledge is power, Your Majesty. If you know who doubts you, you can address those doubts. Perhaps Lord Pemberton needs a reminder of your authority? A public one? Elena's anger transformed into thoughtful calculation. What do you suggest? A new law. Anyone who speaks against the crown can be charged with treason. It worked for Queen Isabel of Thornridge. She ruled for 40 years without challenge. She also had half her nobles executed. And the other half fell in line beautifully. Ravenna smiled. I am not suggesting wholesale slaughter, Your Majesty. Just strategic demonstrations of power. Elena nodded slowly, the idea taking root. You are wise, Lady Ravenna. I am glad you came to Moonvale. As am I, Your Majesty. Ravenna linked her arm through Elena's in a gesture of friendship. I believe we shall accomplish great. Foreign noblewoman, confident, cultured, slightly amused by everything. Your Majesty, she said in a voice she had practiced for months, slightly different in accent and tone from Serafina's voice. I come bearing greetings from the mountain kingdoms and an offer of my services. What services? Elena asked, her eyes narrowing slightly. I am a strategist and advisor, trained in the arts of governance and diplomacy. I heard of your recent troubles, and thought perhaps you might benefit from an outside perspective. Someone with no connection to the old regime, no reason to question your authority." Elena's eyes gleamed with interest. This was exactly what Ravenna had expected. The new queen was paranoid about her father's old advisors. "Go on." "Your Majesty, if I may be frank? The nobles whisper that you are too young, too inexperienced to rule. They say you only gained the throne through tragedy." Ravenna paused, letting the words sink in. "They are wrong, of course. But their doubt weakens your position. I can help you silence those doubts permanently." Adrian stepped forward. "What makes you qualified to advise a queen?" Ravenna met his eyes for the first time, and she saw him react, a slight widening of the pupils, a catch in his breath. He felt the attraction even if he did not understand why. "I have advised 3 kings in the mountain kingdoms, Your Highness. I have brokered peace treaties and prevented wars. I have studied power all my life, how to gain it, how to keep it, how to use it." She smiled slightly. "And I have no ambition to rule myself, which makes me the perfect advisor. I seek only gold and the satisfaction of a job well done." Elena considered this for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Very well. You may stay at court for a trial period. Prove your worth, and you shall be rewarded. Fail, and you will be dismissed. Is that acceptable?" "More than acceptable, Your Majesty. Thank you for this opportunity." Ravenna curtsied again, but inside. Him fall in love with you all over again. Make him doubt his choice. Make him realize what he lost. And when his heart is completely yours again, you will crush it. Ravenna felt a cold satisfaction at the thought. "When do we begin?" "Tomorrow. But first, there is something you should know." Dante hesitated, which was unusual for him. "This path you have chosen, it will change you forever. Revenge has a price. Once you start down this road, there may be no turning back." "I have no desire to turn back," Ravenna said firmly. "Serafina is dead. I am all that remains." Dante looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable in his silver eyes. "So be it. Welcome to the game, Lady Ravenna. Let us teach them all to fear the shadows." The Grand Return. 6 months after her supposed execution, Lady Ravenna Dumont arrived at the gates of Moonvale Kingdom in a carriage of midnight blue. She wore a gown of silver silk that seemed to capture moonlight, and jewels sparkled at her throat and wrists. Every inch the foreign noblewoman. The guards barely glanced at her papers before waving her through. Why would they? The woman they sought was dead, burned to ashes in the execution square. Ravenna's heart pounded as she entered the city. Everything looked the same, yet everything was different. The streets were dirtier than she remembered. The people looked thinner, more afraid. 6 months under Elena's rule had not been kind to Moonvale. At the palace, she was announced to the court. Elena sat on their father's throne, wearing a crown that looked too large for her head. Adrian stood at her right hand, now officially her betrothed. They would marry in 2 months, uniting their kingdoms. Lady Ravenna Dumont of Silver Peak, the herald announced. Elena looked up with mild interest. Adrian's expression was polite but distant. Ravenna curtsied deeply, her auburn hair falling forward to hide her face for just a moment. When she straightened, she wore the perfect mask of our family's magic. So she killed him to take what she believed was rightfully hers. But why frame you? Why not simply claim the throne as the elder sister? Because the nobles would have questioned her right. They knew father intended the throne for me. By making me the murderer, she not only removed the obstacle but also gained sympathy. Everyone would support her claim after I killed our father. And the prince? What role does he play? Ravenna's hands clenched. Adrian was always politically ambitious. He loved me, I think, but when I became a liability, he chose power over love. Elena probably promised him a stronger alliance. Marriage to a ruling queen instead of a second princess. Dante nodded slowly. So Elena craves recognition and power. Adrian craves status and legacy. These are their weaknesses. We will use them. The Mask of Beauty. 3 months into her training, Dante presented Ravenna with a mirror. Look at yourself. The woman staring back was not the soft, gentle princess who had died on the execution pyre. Her golden hair had darkened to a rich auburn. Her green eyes had gained flecks of silver. She was leaner, harder, her face carved into something fierce and beautiful. The shadow magic has changed you, Dante explained. No one will recognize you. Not at first glance. Good, Ravenna said. What is our plan? Simple. You will return to Moonvale as a foreign noblewoman. Lady Ravenna Dumont from the distant Silver Peak Mountains. You will claim to be an expert in governance and strategy, offering your services to the new queen. Elena will never trust me. She will if you give her what she desperately wants, validation. Tell her she is brilliant. Tell her she is right to suspect her advisors of questioning her authority. Feed her paranoia while pretending to be her loyal friend. Humans are simple creatures. They believe what they want to believe. And Adrian? Dante's expression darkened. For him, we have a special plan. You will make. Training in shadows. The first month in the Obsidian realm was agony. Dante was a harsh teacher, showing no mercy for weakness or failure. Each morning, Serafina, she still thought of herself by that name in her private moments, woke before dawn to train in the courtyard of black glass. Your healing magic was gentle, designed to restore and protect, Dante explained on the first day, circling her like a predator. But all magic has a shadow side. Light and dark are 2 sides of the same coin. Today, you will learn to flip that coin. He raised his hand, and shadows coalesced into a blade. Attack me. I do not know how. Then learn. He lunged forward. Serafina barely dodged. Her instinct was to heal, to protect, but Dante was relentless. He drove her back across the courtyard, the shadow blade stopping just short of her throat a dozen times. You are too soft, he said coldly. Too afraid to hurt. Do you think your sister hesitated when she poisoned your father? Do you think Adrian hesitated when he abandoned you? Anger flared in Serafina's chest, hot and bright and unfamiliar. She thrust out her hand instinctively, and white light burst from her palm. But this light was different from her healing magic. It was sharp. Dangerous. Dante smiled. Good. Again. Day after day, week after week, Serafina learned to weaponize her gift. She discovered she could sense the life force in others and drain it away. She learned to create illusions that looked and felt real. She mastered the art of reading people, their fears, their desires, their weaknesses. But the hardest lessons were not about magic. To destroy your enemies, you must first understand them, Dante said one evening as they sat in his library. Tell me about your sister. Serafina, Ravenna, she corrected herself, thought carefully. Elena always wanted to be the favorite. She was older, more beautiful, more accomplished in traditional ways. But father loved my healing gift. He said it represented the best of you, how to become the nightmare your enemies deserve. Serafina looked up at the balcony. Elena and Adrian stood frozen, watching. The sister who had stolen her throne. The man who had abandoned her when she needed him most. Something inside Serafina broke. Or perhaps it was something that had always been there, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Yes, she whispered. Teach me. Dante smiled, she could see it even beneath the hood. Excellent choice. The shadow swallowed them both, and in an instant, they were gone. The execution square fell silent except for the confused murmurs of the crowd. On the balcony, Elena's perfect composure finally cracked. Find them, she screamed at the guards. Search the entire kingdom. She cannot be allowed to escape. But Adrian was staring at the spot where Serafina had vanished, and in his heart, something he thought had died began to stir. Doubt. The Obsidian Realm. Seraphina woke in a place where shadows had weight and substance. The Obsidian Realm was beautiful in a terrifying way, a castle of black glass that reflected nothing, surrounded by gardens where dark flowers bloomed under a purple sky. There was no sun here, only a massive silver moon that never moved. Dante stood by a window, his hood now lowered. He was younger than she expected, perhaps only a few years older than herself. His features were sharp and aristocratic, his hair black as ink, his silver eyes unsettling and magnetic. "Where am I?" Seraphina asked, sitting up on the bed where he had placed her. "In my home. In a realm that exists between shadow and substance. You are safe here. Your sister's guards cannot reach this place." Seraphina looked down at her feet. The burns were gone, healed by shadow magic. "Why did you save me?" Dante turned to face her fully. "Because I know what it is like to be betrayed by those you love. Because I see in you a kindred spirit, someone whose kindness was mistaken for weakness. Someone who deserves revenge." At Elena, who stood on a balcony with Adrian beside her. "I am innocent," she called out, her voice clear and strong. "My sister is the true murderer, and one day, the truth will come to light. When it does, may the gods have mercy on both of you." Elena's face remained perfectly composed, but Adrian flinched. The executioner lowered the torch to the kindling. Flames erupted with a hungry roar, climbing quickly towards Seraphina. She closed her eyes and thought of her father, of the gardens she would never tend again, of the love she had lost. The heat grew intense. Smoke filled her lungs. She began to cough, then to scream as the flames touched her feet. And then, impossibly, the fire went out. The Shadow King. Darkness exploded across the execution square. Not the darkness of night, but something alive and writhing, shadows that moved with purpose and intelligence. The crowd screamed and scattered as the shadows swallowed the flames completely. A figure materialized in the center of the darkness. He was tall and cloaked in black, his face hidden beneath a hood. But his eyes were visible, silver eyes that glowed like moonlight. "Who dares interrupt a royal execution?" Elena shrieked from her balcony. The figure raised one hand, and the ropes binding Seraphina turned to dust. She collapsed, gasping for air, her feet burned but not fatally. The stranger caught her before she hit the ground. "You have two choices, princess," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "Die here as a martyr to injustice, or live as my weapon of vengeance." "Who are you?" Seraphina managed to choke out. "I am called Dante, the Shadow King. I rule the Obsidian Realm, where light fears to tread. I have watched your trial with great interest. Your sister's treachery, your beloved's betrayal, such delicious cruelty deserves to be repaid in kind." Guards rushed forward with swords drawn, but the shadows rose up like a wall between them and the stranger. "Come with me," Dante said, "and I will teach." Breaking. "We grew up together. I loved her. But I cannot ignore the truth. The evidence is overwhelming. Justice must be served, even when it breaks my heart." The judges deliberated for less than an hour. "Princess Seraphina of Moonvale," the head judge announced. "You have been found guilty of regicide and treason. The sentence is death by burning, to be carried out at dawn tomorrow." The courtroom erupted in gasps and whispers. Seraphina felt the world tilting beneath her feet. This could not be happening. It could not be real. "Adrian," she screamed as guards seized her arms. "Please. Tell them the truth. You know me." Adrian stood slowly. For a moment, hope flared in Seraphina's chest. Then he spoke, and that hope shattered into a million pieces. "I cannot marry a murderer," he said, his voice cold and formal. "I hereby dissolve our betrothal. May the gods have mercy on your soul, Seraphina." Elena stepped forward and took Adrian's arm, leaning against him as if for support. "Thank you for standing with me in this difficult time," she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Adrian looked down at Elena, and Serafina saw something shift in his expression. Grief, yes, but also something else. Something that looked almost like relief? Take her away, Elena commanded, and Serafina was dragged from the courtroom, her screams of innocence echoing off the stone walls. The flames rise. They brought her to the execution square at dawn. A wooden stake stood in the center of a pile of kindling, and a crowd had gathered to witness the death of the king-killer princess. Serafina's hands were bound behind her back as they tied her to the stake. She had spent the night in the dungeon, praying for a miracle that never came. Now, as the executioner approached with a flaming torch, she felt a strange calm settle over her. If she was going to die, she would die with dignity. "Any last words?" the executioner asked gruffly. Serafina lifted her head and looked directly. "Adrian, please," she begged. "You must believe me." "I want to," he said slowly. "But the evidence." "Serafina, why would Elena frame you?" "What reason would she have?" "Because she is jealous," Serafina cried. "She has always resented that father favored me, that you chose me instead of her." Elena's eyes widened in what looked like hurt. "How can you accuse me at a time like this? Our father is dead, and all you can think about is your own guilt?" The nobles who had gathered murmured among themselves. Serafina could see the doubt spreading across their faces like poison. She was known as a healer, yes, but healers knew poisons as well as cures. And the evidence was damning. "There must be a trial," Lord Pemberton announced. "This is too serious a matter to be decided without due process." But Serafina could already see how it would end. Elena had planned this perfectly. The trial of betrayal. The trial lasted 3 days. Elena presented witness after witness who testified to Serafina's strange behavior in the weeks before the king's death. A maid claimed she had seen Serafina mixing suspicious liquids in her chambers. A guard swore he had heard her arguing with the king about the succession. A kitchen servant said Serafina had personally selected the wine served at dinner that fatal night. All lies. But convincing lies. Serafina defended herself as best she could, but without proof of her innocence, her words rang hollow. Her healing gift, once seen as a blessing, was now viewed as evidence of her ability to harm as well as heal. Adrian attended every day of the trial, sitting in the front row. Serafina kept waiting for him to stand up and defend her, to declare his belief in her innocence. But he remained silent, his face troubled and uncertain. On the final day, Elena took the stand. She wore black for mourning, and tears glittered in her dark eyes as she spoke. "I do not want to believe my sister could do this terrible thing," she said, her voice. "No," Serafina cried, doubling her efforts. Sweat poured down her face as she poured every ounce of power she had into her father. But the poison was too strong, too targeted. Her healing magic could not overcome it. King Aldrich's eyes found hers. "My daughter," he whispered. "I love you. Be strong." Then he was gone. Serafina collapsed beside his body, sobbing. Adrian wrapped his arms around her while Elena stood apart, tears streaming down her face in what appeared to be genuine grief. The accusation. The investigation began immediately. The captain of the guard, Sir Marcus, examined everything, the wine, the food, the dishes. What he found made Serafina's blood turn to ice. "Your Highness," he said to Elena, who had taken temporary control of the kingdom as the elder sister. "We found this hidden in Princess Serafina's chambers." He held up a vial. Even from across the room, Serafina recognized the green glass. It was the same type used by healers to store medicinal compounds. "That is not mine," Serafina protested. "I have never seen it before." "There is more," Sir Marcus continued grimly. He produced a leather journal. "This diary details a plot to poison the king and seize the throne. It is written in Princess Serafina's hand." "Let me see that." Serafina grabbed the journal and flipped through it with shaking hands. The handwriting did look like hers, every loop and curve perfectly matched. But she had never written these words. This is a forgery. Someone is framing me. Elena stepped forward, her face a mask of sorrow. Sister, I do not want to believe it. But the evidence is clear. You were always father's favorite. Perhaps you grew tired of waiting for the throne. You know I never wanted the throne. Serafina turned desperately to Adrian. You know me. You know I could never do this. Adrian's face was pale. He looked at the journal, at the vial, at Elena's sorrowful expression. Then he looked at Serafina, and she saw doubt in his eyes. Adrian. With dark hair and blue eyes that sparkled when he smiled. When he saw Serafina enter, his whole face lit up. My love, he said, taking her hands. I could not wait another day to see you. Adrian, she breathed, her cheeks flushing pink. You should have sent word. I am covered in garden dirt. You are perfect, he assured her, kissing her forehead. I brought you something. He produced a delicate silver necklace with a blue stone shaped like a teardrop. This has been in my family for generations. It is said to protect the wearer from harm. As he fastened it around her neck, Serafina felt warmth spread through her chest. It is beautiful. Thank you. King Aldrich watched them with fatherly approval. You two will rule both kingdoms well. Your union will bring peace and prosperity to all our people. Elena stood in the shadows near the throne, her hands clenched into fists. No one noticed the green poison vial hidden in her sleeve. The king falls. That evening, the royal family gathered for dinner. King Aldrich seemed tired but happy as he spoke of the upcoming wedding. Serafina, you have brought such joy to this kingdom. Your healing gift has saved countless lives. You will make a wonderful queen. Thank you, father, Serafina said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. Elena poured wine for everyone with a gracious smile. Let us toast to the happy couple. They raised their glasses. Serafina noticed her father's hand trembling slightly as he drank, but she assumed it was merely fatigue from his royal duties. Within an hour, King Aldrich collapsed. Father! Serafina screamed, rushing to his side. She placed her glowing hands on his chest, trying to push healing energy into his failing body. But something was wrong. Her gift could not find the source of his illness. It was as if darkness itself was eating him from the inside. Poison, the royal physician declared after examining the king. A rare and deadly poison. There is no antidote. No. The healer's gift. The morning sun painted the healing gardens of Moonvale Kingdom in shades of gold and amber. Princess Serafina knelt among the lavender beds, her fingers glowing with soft white light as she tended to a wounded deer. The animal had wandered into the palace grounds with an arrow in its leg, and Serafina could not bear to see any creature suffer. There now, beautiful one, she whispered, watching the wound close under her touch. You are free to run again. The deer nuzzled her hand before bounding away into the forest beyond the garden walls. Serafina smiled, wiping dirt from her simple green dress. Her golden hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, decorated with small white flowers she had woven in that morning. Unlike her sister Elena, who preferred jewels and silk, Serafina found beauty in simplicity. Still playing with animals, little sister? Elena's sharp voice cut through the peaceful morning. She stood at the garden entrance, her crimson gown perfectly tailored, her dark hair swept into an elaborate style. A princess should have more important concerns. Healing is important, Serafina replied gently, rising to her feet. Father always said our gifts should serve the kingdom. Elena's eyes flashed with something dark before she smoothed her expression into a smile. Speaking of father, he wishes to see you. Prince Adrian has arrived early. Serafina's heart leaped. Adrian. Her beloved. They had been betrothed for 2 years, and in 3 days, they would finally wed. She hurried past Elena, missing the hatred that twisted her sister's beautiful face. The perfect love. Prince Adrian of the Crimson Court stood in the throne room beside King Aldric, Seraphina's father. Adrian was everything a prince should be, tall and handsome,